Hello, my dear students. I hope you all are doing good. This is going to be our class 10 CBSE series, and in this series, we are going to take every NCRT topics of class 10th NCRT textbook. So, we will start with the very first chapter of class 10 CBSE textbook, that is chemical reactions and equations. So, this chapter is going to have part 1 and part 2, and in this part 1 section, we are going to understand what are the physical and chemical changes that takes place around our environment, right? And then we will further explain about the chemical changes, and then we will study about the chemical reactions. And about the chemical reactions, we are going to further study about their characteristics. How do these chemical reactions takes place? And then further, we are going to see what are the different types of chemical reactions. And since when we see the chemical reactions, we write it down in the form of chemical equations. So further in the part 2 section, we are going to see how these chemical equations can be written and how we are going to balance them. Okay, and at the last we are going to do certain NCRT exercises as well. So let's start. So my dear students, as you know, this science is the description of the physical and the chemical world around us, which we can see are known as physical changes, and those changes which we can't see are known as chemical changes. But have you ever wondered, these changes are happening in which state? These changes are happening in all the four forms or the four states of matter which takes place around the world, that is solid, liquid, gas and plasma. We already understood that physical changes are the one which we can see, describe, taste them, right? Or the visible changes happening in all these states of matter. Like in solid state, we consider that when we provide some, it changes into liquid. But as a matter of fact, these solid can further and can change from liquid to the solid. Likewise, liquid can change into gas, and gas, when provided with extreme temperatures, can change into plasma. But are there any changes in which we can say that these are chemically changed? Yes, there are some chemical changes as well. As we can see in the chemical changes, we can see that these changes are irreversible. There are certain features which describe that the particular change is of chemical change. But do you know how does these chemical changes happen? Yes, in all these states of matter go through certain chemical reactions in order to say that these changes are going through a chemical change. But how can we say that certain matter or the certain states of matter has gone through certain chemical reactions and then these chemical changes happen? So we will see certain characteristics or features which describe that certain chemical reaction has been happened. Let us see what are the characteristics or the features which define a chemical reaction. Before we study about the characteristics of chemical reactions, we need to understand what are chemical reactions. So we already know that the chemical reactions or the chemical changes takes place in the different states of matter. How does this happen? So any change which has been done in certain state of matter means they are reacting. Certain states of matter, we already know that these states of matter are made up of what? These states of matter are actually made up of elements, right? So we already know that element is the pure substance which is made up of one single atom, right? So when certain changes happen inside these atoms, they get connected, they combine with two more atoms, they form molecules, right? So in this combination, when atom is turned into molecule, chemical reaction takes place. And this chemical reaction is defined as the substances or the reactant sites. Means when we write a chemical reaction, there are some reactants on the left hand side which we are considering as the elements which are going to combine with the further more elements. They combine with certain more reactants or certain more elements and they gives out certain products. So these reactants goes through certain chemical reactions. So the chemicals, so we can say that the chemicals in a chemical reactions are the elements or compounds they react when combined or broken down. So in this way, we can say that the chemical reaction is the reaction in which the reactants get combined with the furthermore reactants or the elements to give products. Okay. Now, we will see certain characteristics of chemical reaction so that we can say that certain state of matter has gone through a chemical reaction. So, हमें ये समझना है कि हर केमिकल रिएक्शन का एक कॉमन कैरेक्टरिस्टिक होता है. इधर उनके केमिकल बॉन्ड्स में चेंज आता है, या तो उनके बॉन्ड्स ब्रेक होते हैं या फॉर्म होते हैं. सेकेंडली, उनकी कॉम्पोजिशन में चेंज आता है, केमिकल कंपाउंड है वो कंबाइन होते हैं या टूटते हैं टू फॉर्म अ सिंपलर कंपाउंड्स. और हम तीसरा कैरेक्टरिस्टिक देखते हैं कंजर्वेशन ऑफ मास का. हम इसमें देखते हैं कि जो मास है एलिमेंट्स का वो बिफोर द रिएक्शन और आफ्टर द रिएक्शन सेम रहता है, यानी कि एलिमेंट्स का एटॉमिक मास विल बी सेम. ओके, हम ये जज करते हैं बाय बैलेंसिंग द इक्वेशन और बाय सीइंग द नंबर ऑफ एटम्स बिफोर द रिएक्शन एंड आफ्टर द रिएक्शन. फोर्थ थिंग इज एनर्जी चेंज. हमेशा केमिकल रिएक्शन में एनर्जी चेंज देखा गया है, या तो एनर्जी प्रोड्यूस होती है या एनर्जी रिलीज होती है. एनर्जी इज बीइंग एब्सॉर्ब्ड or either the energy is being released to form or to get the chemical reaction in process. So let us see some day-to-day examples जिसमें chemical reactions होती हैं, और अब हम ये भी देखेंगे कि क्या उन day-to-day activities में और day-to-day chemical reactions में ये features पाए जाते हैं कि नहीं. So come let's see. First of all, very major process which is plant's day-to-day activity is photosynthesis. So we already know that in photosynthesis, the plants take in carbon dioxide, water, and then when light energy is being added or absorbed, right? You can see the energy is being absorbed and then it forms glucose, right? And water is being released. So yes, energy is changed from light to the chemical energy since glucose is forming, and many bonds are also being made, like CO2, H2O is being formed. So glucose is being formed. So yes, the bonds are being formed, the chemical composition is also being changed, conservation of mass remains the same. You can see there are 12 hydrogen here. As you can see in the product side, there are also the 12 atoms of hydrogen is at present in the product side too. So the conservation of mass is maintained, right? So we can say that chemical reaction is being processed in photosynthesis. Now the second major process which we go through all day is respiration. So here also bonds are being made, right? Energy is being released, right? So it is, we can say that energy's change has been taken place. Chemical bonds, here also glucose and oxygen is being taken in, and then it is giving out CO2 and H2O. Likewise, if we see combustion, okay? So combustion also, heat and light is being released. Chemical bonds are formed. You can see the reaction also. Methane gas ऑक्सीजन से रिएक्ट होकर कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड और वाटर रिलीज कर रही है और एनर्जी भी बाहर निकल रही है. ठीक है, तो बॉन्ड्स भी बन रहे हैं, केमिकल कॉम्पोजिशन भी चेंज हो रही है, लॉ ऑफ कंजर्वेशन ऑफ मास मेंटेन है और हमारी एनर्जी रिलीज हो रही है. लाइकवाइज इफ वी सी सर्टेन रस्टिंग प्रोसेस, तो हमें पता है जब आयरन ऑक्सीजन गैस से रिएक्ट होता है तो रस्टिंग को फॉर्मेशन होती है. तो ये हमारा प्रोसेस है, हमारी यहाँ पे रिएक्शन है, तो केमिकल बॉन्ड्स की फॉर्मेशन हुई है, कंजर्वेशन ऑफ मास मेंटेन रहा है. केमिकल बॉन्ड्स एसिड रेन में बनते हैं, जैसे कि सल्फ्यूरिक एसिड, नाइट्रस ऑक्साइड, जब पॉल्यूटेंट्स जो सारे हमारे एयर के पॉल्यूटेंट जो कॉन्स्टिट्यूट करते हैं सल्फर और नाइट्रेट्स, वो रिएक्ट कर जाते हैं ऑक्सीजन के साथ और वो एसिड रेन देते हैं. इसमें एनर्जी रिलीज होती है बिकॉज बहुत सारी एनर्जी चाहिए होती है जब सल्फर और ये नाइट्रेट सारे बॉन्ड्स मिलते हैं. ठीक है, सो एज यू कैन सी हियर इज वन मोर एग्जाम्पल. So the reaction has been done where hydrogen gas is being reacted with the oxygen gas. So you can see the water is being formed. As you can see from the reactant side, which is the left hand side, the element have 4 atoms. Yeah, four atoms of hydrogen is there and 2 molecules of hydrogen is being there. This side describes this big one, superscript side of an element describes the molecule. And the subscript describes the atoms. So 4 atoms and this are the 2 molecules of hydrogen. Reactant side and 2 atoms of oxygen is being present and 1 molecule of oxygen is present on the reactant side. As we can see in the product side is balanced, means the chemical composition is being changed, but the law of conservation of mass is maintained. Okay. So this is one more example, the ozone formation. So what happens, the UV rays, we can say majorly the UVC rays get connected with the oxygen present inside the air and give formation to O3, ozone layer. So energy is being released, right? So this is also considered as a chemical reaction and chemical bonds are being formed. Now there are certain more indicators which state that certain particular elements is going through chemical reactions. Certain indicators which tells that chemical change has been happened or chemical reaction has been taken place is the formation of carbon dioxide when baking soda mixed with vinegar. Most of the energy is being released out. So gas being produced. Energy is related to the gas which is being absorbed to take place the chemical reaction or the gases which are being released to take part in the chemical reactions. Second most indicator is the rusting. As we have seen, the iron which get reacted with the oxygen, it forms a precipitation. It forms a precipitate or solid form on the layer of the iron piece. So you can see this is rusting, which is the formation or the precipitate. Precipitate means leftover solid, which happens in the chemical reaction. Okay. These all are the indicators which can say that chemical reaction has been taken place. So color, sometimes colors is being changed, right? In the potassium permanganate, or we can say KMnO4. So this react with oxalic acid is added, so color is being changed. You can see the purple change is visible to you. Now then the next one is temperature is also being changed, right? So temperature depends upon the energy. How much energy is being gained or absorbed, temperature is being changed accordingly. So this also suggests that chemical reaction also takes place. Now, so the furthermore characteristic depends upon the irreversibility, right? So whenever your certain examples is like tooth decay. So certain acidic which reacts with the tooth, the cavity is being formed or certain tooth decay has been formed which is irreversible, right? Because the enamel is being reduced from your tooth, right? So this can't be reversed back. That is why chemical reaction took place and this is irreversible. So these are some of the characteristics as I've already explained to you. This is the major review that we have studied in chemical reaction. That law of conservation of mass remains the same. Always remember, the chemical composition will change, bonds will form or break. Law of conservation of mass remains the same. Energy is either being released or absorbed. So this was all about the chemical reactions. Now we will study about different types of chemical reactions. So before we will see how many types of chemical reactions are there, we need to know that chemical reactions are being categorized either into two reactions. Either they are going to absorb the energy, which is known as endothermic reactions, and the reactions which are going to exit out the energy are known as exothermic reactions. As the name suggests, you can see X means exit, endo means in. Like this, you can revise these reactions. So majorly the reactions are being categorized endothermic and exothermic reactions. We will see which reactions are endo and exothermic reactions. So these are the types of chemical reactions we are going to study. So there are decomposition reaction in which the reactant's side is going to decompose, means they are the complex compound or the complex element present in the reactant side is going to decompose or split it up into the simpler elements. So this reaction is known as decomposition reaction. Decompose means to decompose, to part it out, to split it up from complex to the simpler one. Now the synthesis means, as the name suggests, to produce or to make. So as you can see, this is the reactant side where the two elements are present. So when these two elements are going to combine with each other, they are going to form on the product side. So one single substance is being formed by the combination of two elements, that is known as synthesis reaction. Now displacement reaction, in this reaction, one of the element present in the reactant side is going to displace the another element. Okay, so as you can see here, if this element is highly reactive elements are there and less reactive elements are there, which we are going to study in detail when we are going to study about reactivity series. So when one of the element present in the compound is placed and it get combined with the other one present in the reactant side. So this is how we get the product side. So since the displacement is occurring or forming, that is why it is known as displacement reaction. And in this double displacement reaction, you can see there are two compounds which are present in the reactant sides. Now one of the highly reacted which will displace the one element from the other compound and get combined with the other element of the other compounds. Two elements combined together to form one element. Okay, so that is combination reaction, like formation of water. As you can see, the chemical composition is being changed, right? The law of conservation of mass is same. How? You can see here, four atoms of hydrogen. Two, you can see there are two atoms of the oxygen, right? Here in both in the reactants and product side. Decomposition reaction, where the complex elements or compounds is being broken down and form the, as you can see here, AB is going to decompose and form two more product side, two more elements in the product side. So this is the decomposition. You can see here this is hydrogen peroxide and it is split it out into water and oxygen. This is known as decomposition reaction. When we talk about displacement reaction, I have already told you, one highly reactive element is going to displace the less reactive element. Like this, when zinc will react with copper sulfate, zinc displace copper from the sulfate and get combined with the sulfate to form zinc sulfate, and copper is exit out. Double displacement reaction, when barium chloride is going to react with sodium sulfate, as barium being highly reactive from the sodium, it displaces the sodium and get combined with barium with the sulfate and form barium sulfate, and sodium chloride is being exit out. Further, we have two more reactions like exothermic, endothermic. We have already understood. When the energy is being exit out, that is exothermic reaction, which helps during combustion. Combustion means burning. Okay, burning of gasoline, petrol, all this comes under exothermic reactions. Endothermic reactions, when the decomposition of calcium carbonate or the reactions in which energy is being taken, like photosynthesis is also one of the example from endothermic reaction, because energy is being taken, right? Two more reactions which are being described in your NCERT, and those are redox reactions and the neutralization reaction. So in redox reaction, as you can see, it involves a transfer of electrons between two substances or the elements. As you can see, two different elements of two different ions, positive and negative ions, combine together and form one compound from in the product side. So sodium and chloride reaction, you can see Na and Cl2 get react and form the sodium chloride. Neutralization reaction, which balance out the salt and water, right? So when acid reacts with the basic, they form salt and water. So when hydrochloric acid get react with sodium hydroxide, they form salt and water. So this is neutralization reaction. So that's all for the part 1 section. Let's quickly see what we have learned in this part 1 section. So in part 1 section, we have learnt about various physical and chemical changes which happen around the world. Then we have studied about the reasons of chemical changes. Why does these chemical changes happen? Then we studied about the common characteristics or features which happens in chemical reactions. And then we have also sees that there are types of chemical reactions in the chemical changes, right? So all this we have covered up in part 1 section. For further in part 2, we are going to see how we are going to write the chemical reactions in the form of chemical equations and how we are going to balance them. Stay tuned. Till then, keep on learning and keep on revising.